Hello there and welcome to, I guess, my channel. So quick introduction. I used to do podcasting where I used to play music. You can see in the background I've got a lot of CDs and a lot of other weird stuff that I really need to tidy this room up. Now I've kind of put that on hold and I really want to get into making like YouTube videos where I just talk about music and talk about films that I've watched, because I watch a lot of films, I listen to a lot of music, and I just thought, hey, it could be fun. So let's get the ball rolling. I'm just going to do like a stream of consciousness review. As you can tell by the way I'm tripping over my words and don't really know what I'm talking about, and I'm looking in the wrong part of the screen. I've never done this before, so please be nice and excuse the noisy chair there. So we've just had Halloween, and I'm a massive horror movie fan, and I decided this Halloween I was going to binge watch all of the Hellraiser films. Why? Am I crazy? Probably, but I watched all of them. Is it 10, 11, 12 of them, I think? We're about to find out. I'm going to do a little, just sum up each one and see how we get on. So first of all, we have got this absolutely amazing box set from Arrow Video. They are absolutely the kings of physical releases these days, and we have Hellraiser 1, and what I love about these things is that they can do they've got like essentially just fan art or some really nice re-release artwork, which is good. But you can also, if you turn it inside out and professional, I'm being professional here, you can also reverse it to get the original artwork. So if you want like endless pictures of Pinhead on your DVDs and Blu-rays collection, then you can go for the reverse. I like the fan art because, not in the case of Hellraiser, but I do find that some horror movie posters, or some movie posters in general, they can be a bit lacking, for lack of a better term. I've got one film. When we get to that film, maybe one day I will give an example. But yeah, there are some Arrow releases and Blu-rays and DVDs in my collection where I kind of prefer the re-release artwork to the original. Let's not go on a tangent though. So we're going to start things off with the original Hellraiser, which came about based upon Clive Barker's, I understand, Clive Barker's various escapades in BDSM nightclubs. Each to their own. But it's created a great horror movie franchise. A lot of people would disagree with me there because the later sequels are very bumpy, and they're not wrong. But I did actually enjoy watching all of these. But anyway, first of all, we have the original Hellraiser with a lovely picture of Pinhead on the front there. And it's really nice. My thoughts are basically... this is the tricky part. Well, for starters, it can't decide as to whether it is set in the UK or not, because it's very clearly filmed in the UK, but then they got cold feet, or the higher ups complained and whatever. So there's some like Americanization going on there with like Andrew Robinson and everything. But overall, this is a pretty good slasher, which is odd because the Hellraiser films in general are not slashers. And if you know what the premise of the franchise is, like there's a puzzle box, and if you open it, the Cenobites, these guys appear, and they take you to like this other realm, which they show you all these pleasures they have, all sights to show you, and it might, given that it's all sort of about like mutilation and extreme sensation, that's the key thing. It's not good, it's not bad, it's just sensation. That's what they want you to feel. And if you like it or you don't like it, doesn't matter to them. You just got to try it. Whether you like it or not, you got to try it. Anyway, so with that all in mind, the fact that this is just a slasher film is a bit unusual. But, you know, all franchises start off on unusual ways, or some of them do anyway. This focuses on a family who move to a house. Blood gets spilt in the attic, and it causes one of the Cenobite's victims, Frank, to appear. And so Andrew Robinson's wife, Julia, she's in love with Frank, prefers him to her brother, so he's like completely skinless, so she starts like killing people to get his so he can take their skin, basically. This is a weird film, isn't it? And now that I've said all that out loud, it's just struck me just how bizarre and out there this is. It is great though. This is easily my favourite of the entire franchise. I mean, yeah, the others dive deeper into the lore of the Cenobites and hell and etc, etc. But this whole thing of just keeping it simple, focusing on the outside of it with them just like as lurking figures in the darkness, I do kind of prefer that approach. But it's all brilliant fun. Andrew Robinson's great. Ashley Lawrence is great as Kirsty. The whole thing is just such a well put together film. The only complaint I really have is that, as it is a low budget film, whenever Frank absorbs the skin off someone, you never see it happen. Compared to the later films where you sometimes do. I kind of would love to have seen that like happen, like Imhotep in the Mummy style, where he just absorbs people's skin and it improves his appearance as it goes on. That was done with CG, but I would have loved to have seen something like that in this. Still, an amazing film and definitely my favourite of the franchise. So next up we have Hellbound, Hellraiser 2. Look at that picture. What is going on there? That's actually probably my favourite part of the film. So Hellbound picks up sort of where the first one left off. You have Kirsty survived the ordeal of the first film, and now she is stuck in like a mental hospital. Unfortunately, the doctor who runs the hospital, Dr. Chenard, he's very interested in the Cenobites and their sights to show him. So he's basically trying to find a way into hell. It's called hell in the films, which I believe to be a metaphorical thing because of just how people would probably perceive it. I think that's how I would see it anyway, if I ended up there, which I hope I never do. The effects are great in this. It's basically like Hellraiser 1, but it dives really deep into the lore, so we get backstories. It starts off with Pinhead's origin. We see what hell looks like. We see the Leviathan, which is the big heart of it all. It's great. The problem I've got with it is that it just feels really bloated. So you have Dr. Channard bringing Julia back from the first film. So it's nice to have Claire Higgins back. So she's then working to her own agenda. So he's trying to get into hell. She's kind of manipulating things to her own agenda. And then you have Frank is also back. He's trying to do stuff. Kirsty is stuck in the middle of all this and she's just trying to escape. And you also have the Cenobites who really, really just want Kirsty to sample their wares. So that's like 5 different plot lines. And this film is an hour and 40 minutes long. And it just can't juggle those plot lines together very well. So the Cenobites pop up and then immediately disappear again. The scene where they appear is very bizarre. It's all sort of full of like weird camera angles, and yeah, it's extremely unusual. But once Dr. Channard sort of gets sucked into Hellraiser, into hell, and becomes a Cenobite, it gets really good at that point, and I really like the effects on him. And yeah, it's definitely worth a watch. A friend of mine, he thinks it's better than the original. I know a few people online I've seen in their own reviews have said that it's better than the original. Good on them, you know. I'm not going to disagree with them there, but I do prefer the first one. And now we get on to Hellraiser 3, Hell on Earth. And this is where kind of the cracks start to appear because it's a very bumpy franchise and it gets bumpy very early on, which is a great shame. But I did like this film, but it was definitely a step down from the previous two at the same time, because now instead of there being the enigmatic, just sample our wares kind of guy, Pinhead is now like just a generic slasher villain. He just wants to conquer the world and unleash hell on Earth, hence the title. And yeah, it's definitely a step down because Pinhead is really hammy. He's kind of funny actually in this one, especially when he's being all sassy in the church. I don't hate this film, but yeah, definitely a step down. My two prevailing thoughts, or my three prevailing thoughts, are number one is that the practical effects, the stationary effects, are a lot better than the ones that move. They just look a bit off. And the less said about the CG, the better, especially the ice that turns into Pinhead's face for absolutely no reason. And then you've also got the fact that Doug Bradley is in this film a lot. So if you always thought Doug Bradley doesn't get enough screen time in his films, which is something I always think, because I've seen a few of his films now, and he just pops up for like 5 minutes total, like stretched out over an hour and a half film. It's I always thought they could have utilized him more. Well, this film utilizes him a lot. There's a lot of Doug Bradley in this, so if you ever wanted to enjoy him as an actor, then this is a great film to go for. And also, the way to describe this film is, if you go up to, say, your average person who doesn't watch horror films, and you say to them, Hellraiser, have you heard of that? How would you describe it? And they've got like a passing thing about, it's about a guy in pins in his face and he goes around and kills people, yada yada. It's like every other slasher film. That's actually how this one is probably best described. It's the sort of generic one of the original trilogy. Great shame. But it is, again, still worth checking out because I know some people really like it. And again, I don't hate it, but yeah, definitely a step down, sadly. Anyway, that's enough blabbing about that. We're going to move on to the next one now. And here we go now. This is where it gets very bizarre. We've got Hellraiser 4, Bloodline. Really? So, Hellraiser 4, Bloodline. This is where things get very peculiar because it's set in outer space. So we've got Hellraiser, Cenobites in space, Spacer bites. Oh no, that doesn't work, does it? No, I'm not joking. So this actually feels like an anthology film to me because you've got the parts in space, but then there's also a good chunk of the film is spent in the 1700s, and then the middle of the film is like set in the present day. It kind of feels more like Hell on Earth in that regard. But yeah, this one's kind of weird because as I was reviewing it and as I was kind of like summing up my thoughts on the film, it kind of grew on me. Because I get a big anthology vibe from this, just how disjointed it is, jumping from section to section. But each section is done pretty well for what it is. The only problem is that when the first thing you see is like one of those metal hands that you sort of control remotely, trying to open the puzzle box, there's no going back from that. It's going to be silly regardless. And so it goes from like Cenobites in space to like Interview with the Cenobite in the 1700s, and then it goes to just normal Hellraiser horror, and then back into space. I did read online that it was supposed to actually be 3 films, a trilogy with each one set in each time period. And, you know, I would have been up for that, I think, because this film has got so much to say, but like has barely got time to scratch the surface. The middle section, which is set in the present day, is easily the best one because it just feels like a really good Hellraiser film. Pinhead is still in his like evil, generic, hammy villain. Well, he's actually less hammy in this. In fact, some of my favourite dialogue from Doug Bradley is in this film. And he's genuinely an intimidating figure again. So his motives are still a bit... but his characterisation is almost... His personality, I should say, is almost back to how it was. Very nice. I do recommend giving this a shot. It's definitely, again, another step down from Hell on Earth. But yeah, for some reason, when I was like writing down my thoughts and reviews on this, I kind of rewatched some clips, went back to my notes and all that, and I was like, oh yeah, I'd forgotten that. And I was just like, actually, I think I like this film. Very bizarre. So that is the end of the mainstream period for Hellraiser, and then after that, things get a bit more niche. Okay, so now we're into era number 2 of Hellraiser, and I think of this one as Pinhead's probation period, because basically from this point on, Hellraiser went direct to DVD, or direct to video I should say. Oh no, it was the 2000s, so they had DVD back then. It was direct to DVD, and nearly all of the next couple of films were basically written as independent horror films in their own right. But then it was just like, okay, so this film is good, but not quite what we're looking for. But if you were to retool it and make it into a Hellraiser film, that'll work. So they would do that. They called Doug Bradley. He would agree to appear in it. Shoot some scenes, like he's barely in them, but he's kind of like the linchpin and the glue that holds each film together, story wise and production wise, because he's normally the best actor. And I always think of it as his probationary period, because after him trying to take over the world in 3 and 4, like this one has him going back to just being like a judge for the wicked. So it's kind of like he's got to prove himself to the Leviathan again. That's just my own personal headcanon, getting a bit silly there. But it does explain why he tends to go all out on so few people for like entire films. But that's just my own personal thought there. So to start things off with this new period, we have got Hellraiser Inferno, with Doug Bradley giving us a particularly disdainful look, which I think is just the default look for Pinhead, basically. And this stars Craig Sheffer from Nightbreed. And also, here's an interesting thing, is that even though this was supposedly not written as a Hellraiser film, it's got Craig Sheffer, who is in Nightbreed, which is a Clive Barker film, and his character does all these weird little magic tricks, and just that connection made me think of, is it Harry D'Amour from Lord of Illusions, which is another Clive Barker character and film. So like the Clive Barker connections are actually a little bit stronger than I at first expected. But yeah, Craig Sheffer is really good in this. He's very hammy, does all these weird little magic tricks spontaneously as he tries to manipulate events around him. But it doesn't really sound like a Hellraiser film, does it? But rest assured it is. Doug Bradley is really good when he does eventually pop up, but don't expect to see him that often. I'm not going to lie, I really, really, really like this film. Probably my favourite, actually. No, not my favourite, but I really like this film. If you like Jacob's Ladder, or this kind of films where the main character's life kind of gets stripped away from them, like say Fallen or Videodrome or In the Mouth of Madness. I've got a massive list of films like that on my letterboxd. If you like stuff like that, or you like a good police procedural horror, there's a tongue twister for you. I recommend this. I really enjoyed it. It's like dark and gritty, and it's directed by Scott Derrickson, who went on to do Sinister, The Exorcism of Emily Rose, and Doctor Strange of all things, and The Black Phone. And he started off with Hellraiser Inferno, which is crazy. Also shows the template for all of his films, which is about somebody being stalked by this enigmatic figure that lurks in the shadows. And I think all of his films are like that, even Doctor Strange, because of Dormammu. See, I've done my homework. But yeah, Hellraiser Inferno. If you like Jacob's Ladder, or you just like a good, dark, gritty horror, this is actually worth a shot. So, now that we've done that, next up is Hellraiser Hellseeker. Phew, this is going to be a bit of a mouthful. So, I watched this one right after I watched Inferno, and what a slap in the face it was. Like the quality is just, this is definitely reeks of direct-to-DVD, sadly. Inferno managed to utilise its limited budget and effects pretty well, and it manages to balance the Cenobites really well, whereas this one is just, it's got probably some of the worst effects, especially CGI, that I've seen in any Hellraiser film. It does have Pinhead coming walking out of an acupuncture chart, which I find very funny. And Kirsty is back as well. They managed to somehow get Ashley Lawrence back from the original trilogy. She's kind of kept to the background, but she's still classic Kirsty, if you like that character. But even then, this is very poor effort. And also the plot is basically the same as Inferno, except without the police procedural aspect. So that was a shame. It's not a bad film, because I don't want to criticise Rick Bota. I think, seeing as he's normally a special effects guy and he's jumped to directing, for a first go, I think it's his first film, but it's not bad. It's the writing is pretty decent. It could have just benefited from showing the Cenobites more, or the horror aspects, because they're kept so far into the background. Like you blink and you miss them, apart from Pinhead. So very unusual, and definitely one of the lesser ones for me. So now that we've done that, next up we have Hellraiser Deader, which is, to me, probably the worst subtitle for a Hellraiser film I've ever heard. Hellraiser Deader. Yeah, well, I'm deader than you. In fact, where's my copy of Inferno? Really? They did it again? Okay, so this one follows a journalist that goes into Romania to investigate a cult who are sort of worshipping the puzzle box and sacrificing themselves to it. It's a very strange one. And again, even though this is not from the mind of Clive Barker, there's this weird sex cult that's also featured, who are operating on a train. And that just made me think of the Midnight Meat Train, which is, again, Clive Barker. So that was unusual. It's actually not so far removed, again, from him as I thought it would be. This one's probably my least favourite Hellraiser film, possibly, which I can hear some people who've seen the films that are to come scoffing already. But it's just a case that this is the first one where I didn't have a clue what was going on, and I had to read up on it afterwards because I was completely lost. It's a great shame. But other than that, this is another sort of low-budget direct-to-DVD horror. Again, it's not bad. It's got its moments. But overall, it's just a bit of a mess. I was very confused by it. So after that, we now have Hellraiser Hellworld. Oh boy, look at this. This is basically features this new Hellraiser themed video game, which affects people, and it causes a group of friends, they're all together, and it causes one of them to kill himself because of how he's experiencing the game. So there's all that problems, and then there's a big party thrown which is themed around the game, and they all go there and enjoy themselves, but then Cenobites start appearing and something starts to go weird. I could have worded that better, but I'm just doing stream of consciousness thoughts. So the weird thing about this, or the disappointing thing about this, is that despite the title and despite that DVD cover with all the binary code on it, you never actually see the game that they play. You just see it with them on their screens. You just hear a muffled Doug Bradley just go, "I'll tear your soul apart," and stuff like that. Typical Pinhead quotes. It's a weird film. You got Lance Henriksen, whose character is never named for some reason. You got Doug Bradley back. Sadly, for the last time, he bailed after this film. Henry Cavill's in it as well. It's a weird film. And bizarrely as well, it takes place over one night. Now, of course, with slashers, you used to sort of them being told over very short periods of time. Halloween takes place over a day and a half, if you don't count the prologue. Friday the 13th takes place over a day and night. But then again, they are quite slow because the killer is preying on people and picking them off one at a time. So when it happens all in one night, practically in real time, at this kind of party, I don't know. I always found that odd. There's a few films like this which are practically real-time slashers, and that seems quick to me. So, just an unusual thing that I noticed. Other than that, the Cenobites in this, they're just slashers. They've gone back into that, but there is actually a reason for it. And the interesting thing is, I'm going to get all three of these films up now. And this is why I don't like to criticise Rick Bota, because he directed all three of these films. And that's the thing, each film feels different. So that's why I think he's a bit underrated, because he directed all three, but there's it doesn't feel like the same three films. Hellseeker is like a typical gritty horror film, or it's trying to be. Deader brings back the gothicness from the 90s, and Hellworld, Hellworld takes place at a party, so that's another 90s aspect, the teen slashers and all that. I got a big Scream vibe from Hellworld, as mad as that sounds, simply because it's a little bit postmodern, has people ranting about the rules of the game over the phone. It's very bizarre. It's also the only film, I think, where they actually call Pinhead by name, as mad as that sounds. It's a weird one, but again, it's not, if you like your slashers, it's not bad. It's a lot worse. It's not as bad as Reputation would suggest. As as mad as it sounds, I'm being critical of these films, but I enjoyed all of them. So now we're going to get onto the third era of the Hellraiser franchise. Pinhead's probationary period is over. I nearly tripped over my words there. And now, instead of direct-to-DVD dolled up films into Hellraiser, we now have films that were, right from the get-go, meant to be Hellraiser films, because they're about to lose the rights. So we're into the rights retention era. What the fuck? If you don't want to lose the rights, maybe make more Hellraiser films. So next up, we have Hellraiser Revelations. Look at that cover. This is, oh boy. So basically, they rushed this into production, and it was so rushed that Doug Bradley just got cold feet and decided not to come back. So now we have this new chap, Stephen Smith Collins, I think his name is. I'm not sure. And, I don't want to criticise him because he's not a great Pinhead, but at the same time, here's the weird thing. He's being dubbed by a famous voice actor who you normally get in Western animation and all that. He's Marvel's go-to voice for Hulk. And he does a really good impression of Doug Bradley, which is dubbed over Stephen Smith Collins. However, in post-production, they didn't alter the voice to sound like Pinhead, so he just sounds like Doug Bradley. It doesn't really have the desired effect. Other than that, though, this is told, again, over one single night. It's like a real low-budget rip-off of the original Hellraiser. It's all done in one house, except again, it's practically real time with lots of flashbacks to how they found the puzzle box in Mexico. And yeah, I mean, again, I didn't hate it. It had a sort of a coziness to it that I enjoyed, but at the same time, yeah, it's not a great one. Weirdly enough, though, other than Pinhead, the effects in this are actually really good. The other Cenobites, when you see them, they look amazing. So it's just weird that they got the most crucial character so off. But I don't want to criticize Stephen Smith Collins too much, because number one, he was dubbed for the whole thing, and also they couldn't have made a legitimately great Hellraiser film and people would have griped because it's not Doug Bradley, even if the makeup looked better. So yeah, I mean, give it a shot. I do think it's one of the lesser Hellraiser films, but I didn't hate it as much as I thought I would. Weird, I know. So now we get on to the second and final film from this era, which is Hellraiser Judgment. Oh boy, this one is once again, another rights retention film. It makes you wonder why they even bothered if they just, that's the only reason they're making Hellraiser films. And this one's a different one, actually. It's basically explaining that the Cenobites have like been merged with another part of hell, so they're having to judge people differently to how they normally do. This is basically just exploring the bureaucracy of the afterlife, which is, I'm not making this up, you know, it sounds like I am, but I'm not. So we've got some new Cenobites. You can see it on the back there. The one in the dark glasses, oops, got that right. The one with the dark glasses there is the Auditor, and he's actually legitimately a great character. He kind of steals every scene he's in. He's played by Gary J. Tunnicliffe, who is also the director and writer of this film. He also wrote Hellraiser Revelations, the previous film. And do you know what? This one feels like a real labour of love. You know, you can tell that he's a big fan of Hellraiser. He's worked on all the previous films under special effects. He knows what he's doing. He knows how to write them. He knows how to work the budget. And yeah, he just came up with a really good film. And Paul T. Taylor is Pinhead. That's not Doug Bradley. And he's really good as well, actually. I actually forgot it wasn't Doug Bradley a few times. He really understands the character. So it's definitely a step up from Revelations and probably the last few films. For some reason, Heather Langenkamp, I can't say her name, is in this as well from Nightmare on Elm Street. So I would say that's cool, but she's literally like in one shot for 2 seconds, and I'm like, why is she here? Aside from those weird points, this is another police procedural film like Inferno, which might be why I like it so much. It's a really good police procedural horror, very, very sort of cramped and claustrophobic way it's filmed, because it's low budget and they're trying to hide that, but it works for me. I was really into this film. Definitely the grossest Hellraiser film as well, with lots of bodily fluids and eating of paper and all that. It's some of it's very nasty. I definitely recommend checking this out because I was actually quite taken aback at just how much I enjoyed it. So that's the end of that period. And last of all, we have got the reboot, the last Hellraiser film, creatively called Hellraiser, and this is just a complete do-over. You got the puzzle box, you got the Cenobites. They look different actor playing Pinhead again, and yeah, it's actually a really good film. I like the plot. Jamie Clayton is really good as Pinhead. She really nails it, and the writing is a bit so-so because it's just trying to be Hellraiser, but it's trying to do something different at the same time. I must admit that I wasn't so keen on how the Cenobites look in this. They looked more like plastic action figures instead of how they looked in the older ones. It's not a bad look, but yeah, again, I wasn't really wowing me. But there is lots to enjoy with this one. I like how hell just appears around people after they open the puzzle box, and I like the shapes it takes. And again, yeah, it's a good film. But I do feel weird saying that I enjoyed like Judgment more, considering how that was so low budget and direct to DVD. But yeah, I think I did. So there you have it. That was my thoughts on all of the Hellraiser films. I might do a ranking. I'm not sure yet. We shall wait and see. Until then, if you've got any thoughts or you want to agree or disagree with me or in the comments, by all means drop me a comment, and I'll try and make some more videos like this. Probably not so long because that went on a lot longer than I thought it would, but it was fun to do and I'm happy. So I shall see you all in the next video.